The vast chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity as representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered for an emergency meeting. Holographic displays showed a small cluster of ships that had entered Council space near the Orion Arm. Ambassador Creel of the Voxeri strode to the center of the chamber, his scaled skin gleaming under the artificial lights. The Voxeri had dominated Council politics for centuries, and Creel carried himself with the arrogance that came from such power. Esteemed members of the Council, he began, gesturing to the display. Our border sensors have detected these vessels entering our territory. As you can see, there are only 12 ships, poorly armed, and using primitive faster-than-light technology. The gathered representatives murmured among themselves. Most species waited decades after discovering the Council before daring to send ships into its territory. Who are they? Asked Representative Molu, a gas-based life form who floated in a containment field. A data officer stepped forward. They call themselves humans, from a planet called Earth. We have no prior records of this species. Creel's mouth formed what passed for a smile among the Voxeri, a tight, predatory expression. Look at the size of their ships. The largest is barely 1/4 the size of a standard Voxeri cruiser. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even the normally serious Trill delegates seemed amused. They must not know who they're dealing with, said another delegate. Or perhaps they're simply foolish. Only Representative Dax of the Lumari seemed concerned. The Lumari were known for their caution and wisdom. We should not judge too quickly. New species often surprise us. Creel waved away the concern. These humans pose no threat, but we must follow protocol. I propose we send a diplomatic vessel to meet them and explain the rules of Council space. The motion passed easily. Most delegates considered it a mere formality. Aboard the Earth ship Defiance *, Captain Alan Reed studied the approaching alien vessel. The Defiance was humanity's pride, the fastest, most advanced ship Earth had ever built. Yet Reed knew it would appear primitive to the ancient civilizations they had come to meet. "They're hailing us, sir," reported his communications officer, Lisa Park. Reed straightened his uniform. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council was about to begin. On screen, the alien that appeared was tall and reptilian, with purple scales and yellow eyes. "I am Sub-Commander Trell of the Galactic Council. You have entered Council space without authorization." Reed nodded respectfully. "I am Captain Alan Reed of Earth. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with the Council." The alien seemed unimpressed. "Your presence has been noted. The Council requires all new species to undergo evaluation before formal relations can begin. You will follow our ship to Outpost 7. Reed frowned. The outpost was in the opposite direction from their planned route. "We're on a mission of exploration, as well as diplomacy. We'd prefer to continue our current course while beginning talks." Trell's expression hardened. "That is not acceptable. Small, unproven fleets must follow Council protocols." "Small?" Reed asked, maintaining his composure. "This is simply our diplomatic and exploration division." "Indeed. Our scans show these are the most advanced vessels your species possesses. Perhaps on your world. This seems impressive. Here it is. Quaint." Several alien officers in the background made gestures that Reed interpreted as mockery. Reed's second-in-command, Commander Jack Wilson, whispered, "They're underestimating us, sir. Should we show them?" "Not yet," Reed murmured. To Trell, he said, "We will consider your request and respond within 1 Earth hour." After ending the transmission, Reed turned to his senior staff. "They see us as primitive and weak. For now, let them think that." Wilson grinned. "The oldest trick in the book. Sometimes the classics work best," Reed replied. "Alert all ships. We'll play along for now, but be ready. Something tells me these Council folks aren't as friendly as they'd like us to believe." As the Defiance and its 11 companion ships prepared to follow the Council vessel, None of the aliens suspected what these primitive human vessels were truly capable of. The Council diplomatic vessel led the human fleet to Outpost 7, a massive space station that orbited a gas giant. As Captain Reed's shuttle approached the docking bay, he could see dozens of alien ships coming and going. The station itself dwarfed anything humans had built in space. "Impressive," said Commander Wilson, looking through the viewport. "Meant to be," Reed replied. "It's designed to intimidate newcomers." The human delegation consisted of Reed, Wilson, and Dr. Eliza Morgan, Earth's foremost xenobiologist. They wore their formal blue uniforms with gold trim, representing United Earth rather than any single nation. Sub-Commander Trell met them at the airlock. "Ambassador Creel awaits you in Chamber 3. Follow me." The hallways of Outpost 7 teemed with alien life. Some species walked on tentacles, others floated, and a few moved on what looked like wheels. Most stopped to stare at the humans. Chamber 3 was a vast room with a circular table. Ambassador Creel sat at the head, flanked by representatives from other species. A holographic display of the human fleet rotated above the table. "Captain Reed," Creel said, not bothering to stand. "Welcome to Galactic Council space. I understand this is your species' first venture beyond your solar system." Reed took his assigned seat. "Not exactly, Ambassador. We've established colonies in nearby star systems over the past 50 years. Creel waved his hand dismissively. Yes. But this is your first contact with a civilized galactic community." Dr. Morgan stiffened beside Reed, but maintained her diplomatic composure. "We're honored to meet the Council," Reed said carefully. "Earth hopes to establish peaceful relations and trade agreements." General Dorn, the military commander of the Voxeri contingent, snorted loudly. "Trade? What could your species possibly offer us? Your technology is centuries behind ours." Reed smiled. "Perhaps we could start with cultural exchange. Every species has something unique to contribute." "Indeed," said Representative Dax of the Lumari, speaking for the first time. "The Council was founded on principles of diversity and cooperation." Creel shot Dax an annoyed look before turning back to Reed. "Here are our terms. Your fleet will remain at Outpost 7. One ship may continue exploration under Council escort. Your species will be granted observer status while we evaluate your civilization for potential membership." Reed frowned. "That's rather restrictive, Ambassador. We came to explore and establish diplomatic relations, not to be confined." "Those are our terms," Creel said flatly. "The Council has protocols for dealing with developing species." General Dorn leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on Reed. "Your vessels are embarrassingly small and poorly armed. For your own safety, you should accept our protection." Commander Wilson clenched his fists under the table. Dr. Morgan placed a hand on his arm. Reed maintained his composure. "Our ships may appear modest by your standards, General, but they serve our needs adequately." "Adequately?" Dorn laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. "They look like children's toys compared to a proper battle cruiser. I could destroy your entire fleet with a single warship." The tension in the room thickened. Several Council representatives shifted uncomfortably. Reed stood slowly. "I believe this discussion has become unproductive. I request 48 hours to communicate with Earth Command regarding your terms." Creel's scales darkened with anger. "You do not walk away from the Galactic Council, human." "I'm not walking away," Reed replied calmly. "I'm requesting time to consult with my superiors, as any responsible representative would do." Representative Dax stood as well. "The human's request is reasonable and within diplomatic protocols." Creel glared at Dax, then at Reed. "Very well. 48 hours. But your fleet does not leave the vicinity of Outpost 7. As the human delegation left the chamber, General Dorn called after them. "Perhaps use the time to reconsider how outmatched you truly are." Back aboard the Defiance, Reed gathered his senior officers. "They're not just arrogant," he said. "They're dangerous, especially the Voxeri." "What's our play, Captain?" asked Wilson. Reed's expression was grim. "Send the coded message to Earth. Then prepare all ships for combat configuration. I have a feeling the Voxeri won't wait 48 hours." "They really believe we're defenseless," said Dr. Morgan with a slight smile. "Good," Reed replied. "Let's hope they keep believing that. Until it's too late." General Dorn paced the command deck of his flagship, the Dominant Asterisk, his clawed feet clicking against the polished floor. 6 hours had passed since the meeting with the humans, and his patience had worn thin. "These humans are stalling," he growled to his second-in-command. "They need to learn their place in the galactic order." Commander Vex bowed her head. "What are your orders, General?" Dorn's mouth stretched into a predatory smile. "Prepare a battle group. 3 cruisers should be more than enough to teach these primitives a lesson in respect." "But, sir," Vex hesitated. Ambassador Creel granted them 48 hours. "I'm not waiting," Dorn snapped. "We'll call it a training exercise. Near their position. If they feel intimidated, that's their problem." Within an hour, 3 Voxeri cruisers detached from Outpost 7 and moved toward the human fleet. Each cruiser was 3 times the size of the largest human vessel and bristled with weapons. Aboard the Defiance Asterisk, alarms blared. "Captain, 3 Voxeri warships on approach," reported the tactical officer. "They're powering up weapons systems." Reed's expression hardened. So much for diplomacy. Battle stations. Throughout the small human fleet, crews rushed to their positions. What the Voxeri couldn't see was that deep within each ship, transformations were taking place. Walls shifted, systems reconfigured, and weapons platforms emerged from hidden compartments. "Sir, the Voxeri are hailing us," said Lisa Park from communications. The main screen flickered to life, showing General Dorn's scaled face. "Captain Reed, my ships are conducting routine exercises in this sector. I recommend you move your vessels to a safe distance." Reed stood tall. "This doesn't look like an exercise, General. It looks like intimidation." Dorn's yellow eyes narrowed. "Call it whatever you wish. My cruisers need space to maneuver. Move your toy-like ships, or we will move them for you." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Options?" Reed asked his senior staff. Commander Wilson pointed to the tactical display. "They've positioned themselves to cut off our escape vector. Classic encirclement." "They expect us to run," said Reed. "Let's disappoint them." He pressed a button on his command chair. "All ships, execute pattern Omega. Defensive configurations only, for now." On the Voxeri flagship, Dorn watched with amusement as the human vessels began to move. "Look at them scatter," he laughed. "Like prey animals sensing a predator." But his laughter died when the tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, the human ships, they're changing." On the display, the human vessels were indeed changing. Outer hull sections shifted, revealing weapons ports. What had appeared to be research equipment reconfigured into defensive systems. "Impossible," Dorn muttered. "Our scans showed minimal armaments." The human ships moved with surprising speed and coordination. Instead of fleeing, they formed a complex 3-dimensional pattern that made targeting difficult. "Sir, they're jamming our targeting systems," the tactical officer reported, panic edging into his voice. "Fire," Dorn ordered. "Use wide dispersal patterns." The Voxeri cruisers opened fire, bright energy beams lashing out across space. But the human ships moved in ways Dorn had never seen before, their formations constantly shifting. Most of the Voxeri shots missed entirely. Then the human ships returned fire. Precisely targeted energy pulses struck the lead Voxeri cruiser, somehow bypassing its shields. Secondary explosions rippled along its port side. "Shields down to 60%, reported the damage control officer. "How did they penetrate our defenses?" 2 more Voxeri cruisers took hits in quick succession. The human weapons weren't particularly powerful, but they struck with surgical precision at vulnerable points. "Retreat," Dorn finally ordered, his pride shattered. Back to Outpost 7. The damaged Voxeri ships turned and fled, pursued briefly by the human vessels before they broke off and returned to their original position. In the council chamber, Ambassador Creel received the news with stunned disbelief. How could 3 of our cruisers be driven off by these newcomers? He demanded. Representative Dax of the Lumari spoke quietly. Perhaps we have underestimated the humans. As if in answer to Dax's comment, a transmission came through on the council's emergency channel. Captain Reed's face appeared on all screens. Galactic Council, hear me clearly, Reed said, his voice steady and firm. We came in peace. We will leave in peace, or we won't leave at all. The council chamber erupted into chaos as the implications of the humans' words, and more importantly, their unexpected victory, sank in. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its 3rd hour. Ambassador Creel's scales had darkened to a deep purple, a sign of extreme anger among the Voxeri. General Dorn stood beside him, a bandage covering one side of his face, where a console had exploded during the retreat. This humiliation cannot stand. Creel slammed his fist on the table. These humans tricked us. They concealed their true military capabilities. Representative Dax floated forward, the bioluminescent patterns across her translucent body pulsing with concern. Perhaps we should consider that we provoked them unnecessarily. Captain Reed requested peaceful dialogue. Peace, General Dorn spat. Their response was far beyond self-defense. They targeted our ships with military precision. They knew exactly where to hit us. The council chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. The defeat of 3 Voxeri cruisers had shocked everyone. For centuries, the Voxeri had dominated through military strength. Creel turned to the gathered representatives. I call for a full military response. We must crush this human fleet before they can summon reinforcements. You assume they have reinforcements, noted Dax. Creel's eyes narrowed. Reed's message was a threat. He's stalling for time while they prepare a larger force. After much debate, the council voted, with the Voxeri's numerous allied species backing them. The motion passed. A massive fleet would assemble to eliminate the human presence. On the Defiance *, Captain Reed watched the increased activity around Outpost 7 with growing concern. They're mobilizing everything they've got, Commander Wilson said, studying the sensor readings. I count 37 warships already, with more arriving. Reed nodded grimly. They won't underestimate us again. Next time they'll come with overwhelming force. Dr. Morgan joined them on the bridge. Captain, I've been analyzing the data from our encounter. The Voxeri ships use a standardized control system across their fleet. It's efficient but predictable. Can we exploit that? Reed asked. Our AI tactical systems already are, she replied with a slight smile. That's how we hit them so accurately before. Reed turned to his communications officer. Any response from Earth Command? Lisa Park shook her head. Nothing yet, sir. The quantum relay message should have reached them, but we won't receive a reply for at least another 12 hours. We may not have 12 hours, Reed said quietly. He studied the tactical display, where the growing Voxeri fleet glowed like an angry swarm. Begin full combat preparations on all ships, and send one last message to the Council. Ambassador Creel was supervising the fleet preparations when a junior officer approached nervously. Ambassador, we've received another transmission from the human captain. Creel followed the officer to a private viewing room. On the screen, Captain Reed's face appeared calm and resolute. Ambassador Creel, General Dorn, and members of the Galactic Council, Reed began. I see you preparing for war. Before you commit to this course, I urge you to reconsider. Humanity wishes no conflict with the Galactic Council or any of its member species. We came seeking friendship and cooperation. Creel snorted in derision. Reed continued. However, if attacked, we will defend ourselves with all necessary force. The ships you see represent only a fraction of humanity's capabilities. I implore you, choose diplomacy over conflict. The message ended. Creel turned to General Dorn with a mocking smile. A desperate bluff, Dorn said confidently. Their ships performed better than expected, but they're still outnumbered and outgunned. We've assembled 70 warships. They have 12. Proceed with the attack, Creel ordered. I want this resolved before the Council loses its nerve. Aboard the Defiance *, Reed watched as the massive enemy fleet began to move toward their position. All ships report ready, Captain, Wilson said. Combat configurations active and synchronized. Reed took a deep breath. They've made their choice. Now they'll learn why humans survive against the odds. The small human fleet began to move, not retreating but advancing in a complex formation that confused the Voxeri targeting systems. What had appeared to be simple exploration vessels had transformed again. Armored panels shifted, revealing more weapon systems. Hull sections reconfigured, improving maneuverability. Send the final alert code to Earth, Reed ordered. Then all ships, execute battle plan Thermopylae. As the two fleets closed the distance, Reed remembered an ancient human quote. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. The Voxeri were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Space lit up with the fury of 70 Voxeri warships opening fire simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes surged toward the 12 human vessels, a storm of destruction that should have annihilated them in seconds. But the human ships moved like dancers in a carefully choreographed performance. They twisted, rolled, and accelerated in ways that defied the Voxeri targeting computers. When the barrage ended, only 3 human ships showed minor damage. On the bridge of the Dominant *, General Dorn stared in disbelief. Impossible. No fleet can survive that kind of firepower. His tactical officer looked up in confusion. Sir, they're evasion patterns. Our systems can't predict them. And their shields, they're adapting to our weapons frequency in real time. Dorn slammed his fist on his command chair. Close range. All ships. Close to point-blank range. The massive Voxeri fleet surged forward, attempting to surround the human ships and eliminate their maneuverability advantage. Aboard the Defiance *, Captain Reed watched calmly as the enemy closed in. They're trying to box us in, Commander Wilson noted. Reed nodded. As expected. Execute defense pattern Echo. The human ships suddenly accelerated toward the oncoming Voxeri fleet, seeming to charge directly into the jaws of death. At the last possible moment, they scattered in all directions, passing between the larger alien vessels with incredible precision. Now, Reed ordered, target their propulsion systems. From point-blank range, the human ships fired. Their weapons were not particularly large, but they struck with surgical precision. 12 Voxeri ships suddenly found themselves dead in space, their engines disabled. The remaining Voxeri vessels turned to pursue, but the humans had already regrouped and were executing another complex maneuver. In the Council observation chamber, representatives watched the battle with growing alarm. This is unprecedented, murmured a Trilaxian delegate. Their coordination is perfect. Ambassador Creel paced nervously. They're still outnumbered 6-1. Dorn should be crushing them. Representative Dax floated closer to the tactical display. Look at their ships. They're changing again. On the screen, the human vessels were indeed transforming once more. Sections of hull reconfigured, weapons retracted, and new ones deployed, and shield emitters repositioned. They're adapting, Dax said quietly. Every time our forces try a new tactic, the human ships reconfigure to counter it. General Dorn was growing desperate. 23 of his ships were now disabled, and another 8 had taken serious damage. Yet he had destroyed only 1 human vessel. All remaining ships, form the spear formation, he commanded. Concentrate all firepower on their flagship. 40 Voxeri warships moved into a tight arrowhead formation and charged toward the Defiance *. This was the Voxeri's most devastating attack pattern, never before defeated. Sir, They're targeting us specifically, Wilson reported on the Defiance's bridge. Reed smiled thinly. Perfect. Activate the Aegis protocol. As the Voxeri fleet closed in, the remaining human ships suddenly converged around the Defiance. Their hulls began to glow with strange energy, and then the impossible happened. Their shield systems linked, forming a single massive energy field. The combined firepower of 40 Voxeri warships struck this unified shield and dissipated harmlessly. Return fire, Reed ordered. Pattern sunburst. The human ships fired simultaneously from within their shield bubble. The coordinated blast tore through the center of the Voxeri formation, disabling another 15 ships in a single strike. On the dominant alarms blared as systems failed across the ship. Sir, we've lost 38 vessels, another 20 severely damaged, reported Dorn's second-in-command, her voice shaking. Our remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat. Dorn couldn't believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Voxeri Empire, was being systematically taken apart by 12 human ships. How? He whispered. How is this possible? On his view screen, he watched as the human vessels continued their deadly dance. They moved as one organism, their formations constantly shifting, never presenting the same target twice. Their weapons struck with impossible accuracy, targeting vital systems with minimal energy expenditure. They're not just fighting us, Dorn realized with growing horror. They're studying us, learning, adapting. Just as he was about to order a full retreat, his sensor officer shouted in panic. General. Spatial distortion forming behind the human physician. Dorn looked up at the main view screen in time to see space itself tear open behind the human fleet. What is that? He demanded, fear creeping into his voice for the first time. His question would soon be answered, and the Voxeri would learn the true meaning of terror. The spatial tear widened behind the human fleet, a swirling vortex of blue-white energy that stretched across hundreds of kilometers. General Dorn stared at it in horror as his damaged flagship limped away from the battle. What is that phenomenon? He demanded. His science officer's voice trembled. It appears to be an artificial wormhole, sir. We've never seen one this large or stable. Artificial. Impossible. No species has mastered controlled wormhole technology. But the evidence was undeniable. The swirling portal stabilized, its edges glowing with contained energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then ships began to emerge. Not one, not 10, hundreds. They came through in perfect formation. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the largest Voxeri vessels. Each bore the same markings as the 12 ships that had fought so brilliantly. Human ships. Count them, Dorn whispered, unable to tear his eyes from the screen. 300, 400. Still coming, sir, the tactical officer reported, his voice hollow with shock. Over 500 vessels now, with more emerging. In the council observation chamber, silence fell as representatives watched the human armada pour through the wormhole. Ambassador Creel's scales had turned pale gray, the Voxeri equivalent of going white with fear. They tricked us, he whispered. Those 12 ships, they were never their fleet. Representative Dax's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly. They were scouts, advance units, a transmission cut through all channels, appearing on every screen in the council chamber and every Voxeri ship. Captain Reed's face was calm, almost sympathetic. Ambassador Creel, General Dorn, members of the Galactic Council. As you can see, reinforcements have arrived. What you're witnessing is the 3rd Fleet of the United Earth Navy. I command only its Scout Division. Reed paused, letting his words sink in. I warned you that our ships represented only a fraction of humanity's capabilities. You chose not to believe me. Now I ask again, will you choose diplomacy, or will you continue this unnecessary conflict? On the bridge of the Defiance, Reed watched as the Earth's third fleet completed its emergence from the wormhole. Admiral James Thorpe's flagship, the Resolute took position alongside the Defiance Perfect timing, Admiral, Reed said as Thorpe's image appeared on his screen. Seems like you've been having all the fun without us, Captain, Thorpe replied with a grin. Did our little demonstration work? Reed nodded. The Voxari are in full retreat, and I believe the Council is reconsidering their position on human diplomacy. The wormhole technology had been humanity's greatest secret. Developed 50 years earlier, it had allowed Earth to explore and colonize far beyond what conventional FTL travel would permit. The 12 scout ships had been equipped with portable wormhole generators, technology the Council believed impossible. Captain, said Lisa Park from Communications, Ambassador Creel is requesting to speak with you. Reed straightened his uniform. Put him through. Creel's face appeared, his arrogance replaced by carefully controlled fear. Captain Reed, the Council requests an immediate ceasefire and the reopening of diplomatic channels. I'm pleased to hear that, Ambassador. I'll meet your delegation aboard the Resolute in 1 hour. After the transmission ended, Commander Wilson turned to Reed. Think they've learned their lesson, sir. Reed looked at the tactical display, where the battered remnants of the once proud Voxari fleet limped back toward Outpost 7. Behind him, over 600 Earth vessels maintained perfect formation. I believe they're beginning to understand something important about humans, Reed said quietly. What's that, sir? That we prefer peace, but prepare for war. That we value cooperation, but will not tolerate intimidation. And most importantly, Reed smiled as he watched several Council ships approaching under flags of truce. That humanity never reveals all its cards at once. In the Council's private chamber, Representative Dax addressed her colleagues while Ambassador Creel sat in shamed silence. Today we have witnessed something unprecedented, she said. A species we dismissed as primitive has demonstrated technology beyond our understanding. She gestured to the display showing the massive human fleet. We mocked their tiny fleet because we saw only what they wanted us to see. We judged by size and number, not by innovation and strategy. Her bioluminescence pulsed with emphasis as she concluded. If we are wise, we will learn from this. The humans have shown both their power and their restraint. They could have destroyed us, but instead they offer peace. For the sake of all our species, I suggest we accept. One by one, the Council members signaled their agreement. A new era in galactic politics had begun. 1 month after the battle at Outpost 7, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked dramatically different. The raised central platform where Ambassador Creel once dominated proceedings now held a circular table with equal seats for all species. Among them sat Captain Reed, now officially Earth's first ambassador to the Council. The chamber buzzed with activity as delegates prepared for the historic session. Reed adjusted his new diplomatic uniform, still unused to the formal attire after years in a captain's outfit. Nervous? Asked Dr. Morgan, who had been appointed as Reed's chief scientific advisor. A bit, Reed admitted. It's easier facing a fleet of warships than navigating galactic politics. The session began with the formal removal of Ambassador Creel from his position. The once mighty Voxari diplomat stood before the Council, his scales a dull gray from the humiliation. For centuries, the Voxari have guided this Council, he said stiffly. We brought order to the galaxy. You brought fear, corrected Representative Dax. There's a difference. The vote was quick and decisive. Creel was replaced by Merrick, a younger, more progressive Voxari who approached Reed immediately after the ceremony. Ambassador Reed, Merrick said, bowing slightly. I hope our species can move beyond recent misunderstandings. Reed shook the alien's hand, a gesture Merrick had clearly studied. That's why I'm here. The true impact of humanity's arrival became clear as delegations from smaller Council species approached Reed one after another. The Trilaxians, long subjugated by Voxari influence, requested direct trade agreements. The Helios Collective sought human assistance with terraforming technology. Even the mysterious quantum mind of Rigel offered cultural exchange. They see us as liberators, Wilson observed, watching from nearby. Or at least as a counterbalance to Voxori dominance, Reed replied. The Council's afternoon session focused on technology sharing. Admiral Thorpe, representing Earth's military interests, stood to address the gathering. Earth is prepared to share advances in medical technology, sustainable energy, and faster-than-light communications, Thorpe announced. However, certain military and wormhole technologies will remain classified for now. This announcement caused murmurs throughout the chamber. Representative Dax floated forward. The Council traditionally requires full technology disclosure from member species, she noted. Reed smiled diplomatically. Earth is not requesting full membership yet, merely allied status. Complete integration takes time. The underlying message was clear. Humans would share knowledge on their own terms. Later that evening, Reed stood at the observation deck of the Council station, looking out at the stars. The Earth fleet remained positioned nearby, a constant reminder of humanity's unexpected strength. Beautiful view, isn't it? Said a voice behind him. Reed turned to see General Dorn. The Voxeri commander had survived the battle, though his reputation had not. His once elaborate uniform was now simple and undecorated. General, Reed acknowledged with a nod. I didn't expect to see you here. Dorn moved to stand beside him. I've been reassigned to Border Patrol. A humbling position. He paused. I underestimated your species. A mistake I won't make again. It's a mistake many have made throughout human history, Reed replied, judging by appearances rather than substance. Those ships, Dorn said, gesturing to the human fleet visible through the viewport. They're unlike anything in the galaxy. How did your kind develop such technology? Reed considered the question. Necessity. Humans evolved on a harsh world, constantly fighting to survive. We learned to adapt, to build tools that change as our needs change. And the wormhole technology. Reed smiled. Some secrets we keep for now, General. The following morning, the Council convened to sign the Earth Alliance Treaty. As Reed pressed his thumb to the document, officially establishing humanity's place in galactic politics, he reflected on how quickly things had changed. 3 weeks ago, the Council had dismissed humans as primitives with a tiny, insignificant fleet. Now they scrambled to form alliances and trade partnerships with Earth. Representative Dax approached him after the ceremony. Your arrival has changed everything, she said. Many species now look to humanity for leadership. Reed shook his head. Not leadership, partnership. We didn't come to replace the Voxeri as the dominant power. We came to ensure no single species dominates others. Dax's bioluminescence pulsed with what Reed had learned was amusement. Noble words. I hope your kind lives up to them. As Reed looked around the chamber at the diverse species now communicating as equals, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had arrived late to the galactic community, but had already made its mark. Not through the size of its ships or the number of its weapons, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and the courage to stand firm against overwhelming odds, qualities that had defined humans since they first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them.